Hi, it's Lael from Made by Marley. Welcome back to our channel. Do you ever get landfill saves that you think, are they savable? Decoupage is a great way of covering up some of the aesthetics that are wrong with furniture that's going to landfill. So follow along and see how, I mean, this is structurally sound, it's just aesthetically it was very ugly. So by using paint, mould and Made by Marley decoupage paper, this is the result. Okay, so this is the piece for today. It wasn't supposed to be this piece, but somebody came down to our house and dumped it with us because they were putting it to the tip, and so it was sitting in Matt's workshop in the way, so it is now in here to get it out of the way. So there is a lot of things, nothing structurally wrong with this, just aesthetically wrong with it. So obviously it's got a lot of chips, dings. It's got missing parts of the veneer up here, the mouldings here. It's got scratches, it's got cut marks on the top. It's not been looked after or loved. The inside's pretty reasonable. I mean, it could be worse. I mean, this looks terrible, but you know, let's see what we can do. What happens when you get a piece of furniture like this? You don't have the heart to get rid of it, but you think, well, what can I possibly do to make this look better? So there's a number of ways that I always think that you can really lift furniture and make it what you want. And one of them is, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some moulds, which is a bold move actually, because they're going to be maybe sitting prouder than this recess. We'll see how we can work that out, maybe cast them a little bit thinner. I'm going to put moulds across here. I'm going to put some moulds along there. I'm going to decoupage it. And then we're going to do a paint finish, and then we're going to see what else we can throw at it after that. Because this one was a sort of curveball, I don't have a huge plan for this. So this is just going to be a suck it and see one, see how it goes as we go. So first thing I've got here is a mould. I don't know the name of it. I will know the name of it by the end of this video. It's a redesign mould. It's a CCV style mould. It could be lace something, but I'm not quite sure. And I'm going to be using this large one here. This one here. I'll do one just to... Yeah? Sorry, Martin. Was it too swift?
You were too swift, yeah.
Too swift. So when you're moulding, I've got a mould 101 video. I'll get Martin to put it up here. But you need a release agent. You always need to put something in it. I just find it the best. And I use corn flour. I think it's called cornstarch in other countries. Just making sure that I've got it all in. Now, this is a sort of art form in itself, because you don't want to have too much of this in your mould and it take away your detail. So once you got it in, I use a sort of rough coloured sort of acrylic brush just to rub it into the details. And then what I do is I just tip it out and get rid of the excess so that I know that nothing's going to stick to it. Right, okay, then you need to get some of your clay, which I buy mine in the skill bucket. I'm just going to get it open. I'm on a new one today, so let's just get this opened. So I think the best way to deal with these great big long ones is to make a great big long shape. And then pop it in, because I think that's just the way to go. Now you have to make sure that your join is completely joined. If not, that'll make a mess when you go to put it in your mould. So do something like this first, I think, with the big long ones. Let's see, then just start with your hands first. Now you don't want to be doing this with your fingers so that it's thin and vulnerable in some areas, but you're just spreading it out, trying to get rid of as much excess as you can. Making sure you've got it right to the edges. I'm going to try my hardest in this video. Oh, I think that was a bump in the background.
That was me leaving something sitting on top of the washing machine. It's really light, and it's just obviously vibrating its way off.
I quite often do that. I sometimes leave cans of aniseed paint on the washing machine, come back and go, phew, thank goodness nothing bad happened to that. Now what you can see I'm doing is I'm taking it to the edges first. Now you don't want to be pulling it around in the clay, around in the mould, because it'll give you a shadow on your cast. Taking the excess off from the edges first. Get rid of that first. Especially with these big long ones, you really need to make sure that you've got that part down first. Then what I'm doing is I always like to work from the middle out and then turn it round and do the other side. You want this side to be as flat as you possibly can because it's the side that's going to be adhering to your furniture. Now, I know you've seen me do moulds so many times, but for anybody that's new and this is the first video you're watching me, this is the way I do them. It's the ideal way. Just tidy it up around the edges. I don't really like it when it's that little gap there. I don't really like when that happens. So kind of be mindful of that. And that's all I'm doing. I'm just taking away my excess. And then what I'm going to do is do one kind of swoop across it, tidy it up around these edges. This part's worth taking a little bit of time because you're going to get a nice cast in like that and then just smooth it all off. And I don't know what this is, it's just a scraper. But I use it all the time for my moulds. When I hit upon this, I thought this is brilliant. So, like that. Then the best way to get them out is to flip them over and just literally, now this is quite a kind of one that's kind of, normally they kind of fall out, but this one might need a tiny little bit of coaxing. Just coax it out. Let gravity do the rest. There we go. Nice like that. Can you see that, Martin? It's probably quite difficult to film on the floor.
I've got a shadow on it. So.
I can pick it up and show them. Yeah? So, what I'm actually going to be doing with this shape is I'm actually going to be cutting it. Yeah, I'm going to be cutting it because I want it to go along this edge here. So I'm only going to take the top fluted edge for this. I'm going to be kind of just taking it from here. And again, I'm just using my scraper. Just cutting it along here like that. Then just slide your scraper along it until you've got the shape you want. This is the shape here that I want. Now we can do tidying up when it gets on the piece. But can you see this natural sort of curve on there? I want to try and kind of accentuate that with this. So I'm going to kind of just, oh, sorry. I took a holiday and I ended up getting sick again. Glue, plenty of glue. I'm only going to glue one on. You're not going to have to endure this whole thing. I don't want to try and save my voice anyway, so there's a bit much glue on that. I'll just put that on the excess on there. Making sure you get it right to the edges, and you can see that I'm gluing it straight onto the furniture, not onto a painted surface. Flipping it round, and I'll just start at this edge here. And I'm just going to work my way along. I don't want it touching the top of the drawer, so you might have to do a little bit of adjusting. And then, as usual, I've got a rough-eared bristle brush. I'm dipping it in the water, getting the excess off, and I'm just doing my clean-up so that I don't have a messy mould when I go to paint it and along that edge there. Smooth that out. I am going to do this all the way along to here. I might flip it round. I'm wondering what the other end of this might look like if I attach that in there. Martin, what do you think about that?
Well, I don't think maybe it's up to you.
You do think, Martin. I'm thinking maybe I might do this one up on the top of here.
Yeah, it fits better on there.
Yeah, looks nicer on there. So I'll do it along here, and the excess I'll glue up onto here, and then we'll get to figuring out how to fix these bad boys up here. And then once we've done that, we'll get to doing some decoupage. Okay? This is what I've done so far, and I'm going to show you how I put the moulds over the top of here because it's a curved surface. You do not want these coming back off. So I've already cast the moulds and I've got the glue on them. So I'm just going to start by putting this one on here, pushing it right up to the top, and then kind of bending it down into here and using my scraper to push that edge down in. I lost a little bit of definition there on that one. Now, because it's carved, you have to remember what the surface looks like. So I'm trying not to lose any definition, but I am making sure. And with things like this, you kind of go up them like this because you'll get air pockets underneath your mould, and so you have to make sure that there's no air trapped underneath here, because that could make it loose as time goes on. So once you've got that kind of looking pretty, you can put the other one on. Did a better job of casting this one for some reason. Now take that in, slice that along here, remove your excess, give your hands a little bit of a wipe, and again, air pockets is what you're trying to prevent, and because I know the furniture goes in there, pushing it down but try not to lose any definition, pushing it down that recess, and then making sure one last time that there's no air in there, because that is going to be the thing that pulls your mould back off and makes it vulnerable. Now, with my clean-up brush, I just need to put some more water on that.
I think I remember where you got that tool from.
Which tool?
The
scrapery thing?
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah, I think you got it in like a bucket in B&Q that was like of, you know, old tools and things like that. It's just, yeah, I think it's for putting tiles grout on.
Oh,
and I think you just saw it one day and went, that'd be brilliant for this. And I think it was like £1 or something.
That sounds like something that I would go, oh, look at that. And now all I'm doing is I'm just tidying up my moulds, making sure that there's not any big obvious blobs of glue on any of the edges, cleaning it up. Now, clean up is really important. I mean, it just is. How you apply them as well. It affects how they look when they're painted. So now, these, where the joins are, so let's work on this one here. You just need if you don't have any clay tools, it doesn't matter, you just need a little knife. But I'm just going to knit that together, because if there's anything that's going to shrink, it's going to be that little join there. So let's just put that together. If you're a bit unclear, I'll have one of these and just put a bit of water in that joint. It's kind of like slipping and scoring, but you're just kind of putting it back together. Knitting these joints together is really quite important. I don't find DAS shrinks. It's a really good clay for not getting a lot of shrinking, but it does shrink slightly because everything does when it dries. So we're just tidying up these little edges here, making sure. Now, these joints down here are way worse, so we're going to have to do a little bit of kind of jiggity-pokery with these to put them together. Put them together nice, so that they don't pull apart, but just when I go to paint them, they're going to look better. What I did with here is see this kind of shape that goes in, to make sure that I'm not going to get left, and when they're knocked from underneath, they're more secure. I just pushed my finger into these recesses just to make sure that these are firmly attached. And that then needs a little bit of a clean. So that is the mould. That's all I mean. Already, from what it is, it already looks way better because these were all chipped. It needed some sort of focal part up here. And I think this has made such a difference on this area here. All this chipped veneer and paint and stuff can varnish can be all covered with paint, so that's not the end of the world, and it's not crisis, so don't need to worry too much about just getting that bit of glue out there about that part. And I'm happy the way that it's all been applied and it's all nice and tidy. Now the best course of action with these now is to let them dry, so I'm just going to leave those alone while I start working on the front. Oh, another little thing, I just took this top edge and then I cut it. I just put enough in the top edge and then I cut it with my scraper because I want this little fluted trim to go round the keyhole. So I'm just going to gently pull this out and see what shape I can get out of it. See if I can get enough to... I only need a little part. I mean, I've over moulded it, but... So, always with clay, pat your part because you can see your little... Let's just see what I can do here. I want to make myself a keyhole that is nice. Let's get rid of that there and set that up there. It's better doing all the shape work before you put any glue in it. So let's just get some clay tools here. just cut the shape off here. Tidy it up with your hands. When you put the glue on, you can tidy up a little bit more, but we are trying to get a really nice sort of. I'm going to glue this side on first. I've got plenty of glue still on my brush, so. Let's see if we can mould it to the actual keyhole. I don't actually have a key for this piece, but let's try and make this a feature if we can. Push that down. Get this side here. Pop some glue on it at this side. And I'm just going to work this in so that it's a little bit tidier than it currently is. When you first do it, it's going to look a little bit crude. So you're just kind of pushing like that. And tidy up, don't worry. It takes a bit of time, but it's just this fluted edge will match this fluted edge. So I can clearly see that I need to push this in a little bit to make it more. And I need to push this out an edge here. And this is the things you can start doing once you learn how to use your moulds. You can do lots of different things. That's quite exciting. Well, I think they're exciting, Martin. Probably you don't think this is that exciting.
I do. Molds are awesome.
I'm going to push that down a little bit. Just going to put my definition back in there. I really want to join this edge up, but I don't want to lose this sort of line cross hatching effect. So I'm just going to take my tool and pop it around the other way and just. I mean, it looks a little bit crude before it's had paint on it, but once it's been painted, it should look pretty good. So I'm going to work a little bit more onto this and get this just the way I want it. Yeah, and then I'm going to set up for the decoupage paper. Okay, so my moulds are completely dry. It's had more than overnight. It's been sitting here for about a week. Why? Because this piece had been, as I said, it was in our way. Somebody had come down and just dumped it there and it was damp. It'd obviously been in a shed for quite a long time. The drawers were really stiff. So always better before you start sanding and doing all different things with your furniture to let it dry out first, because we could hardly get the drawers in and out of this. And as soon as it dried out, they're fine now. I can't open them now because I've just taken the handles off them, but yeah, the drawers are fine now. So always get a top tip before you start doing adjustments and things. And then sometimes once it's dried out, just a little bit of wax in your runners, sides of your drawers, and it's good. Martin did a little bit of repair on the middle drawer. Just some of the dovetails were coming off, so he glued it, clamped it, and it sat in the workshop overnight for that too. So all the fixes have been done. That's what I'm trying to say. So we're going to be decoupaging today.
It's ugly, but it's perfect now.
It doesn't look very pretty right now, but let's get let's sort that problem out. Now, today I'm going to be using Made by Marley decoupage paper, and I'm going to be using Chinoiserie. And if you haven't seen Chinoiserie, it's 3 different sheets. So this is sheet 1. This is sheet 2. Whoop, and this is sheet 3. So for the now, I'm going to be sitting the one with the butterflies to the side because I don't want that yet. And we are going to be doing make it up as you go along Chinoiserie piece. So what I'm doing, if you've never used Made by Marley first, is I'm ripping it so that I can blend up to my edges. And I'm getting rid of the white border. And if I was just doing a drawer front, I wouldn't need to do any of that. You could just put it straight on, but because and I'm going to be wanting this irregular shapes, but I'm just getting rid of the border first, which is quite tricky because I'm not actually wearing my glasses right now. I think that might, yeah, there you go. That suddenly made such a difference.
I do the same thing all the time.
Yeah.
Squinting and trying to see.
Just going to do the same with this one as well.
Hang on a second, glasses on.
Suddenly, I can see clearer now. It's a song in that, Martin. Right, so I'm just doing this with the 2, and the one with the little I think they're actually moths. Maybe they're butterflies, I don't know. I'm just sitting to the side. We'll come back and we will do something with that. Now, I'm going to be doing quite a lot of decoupage on this piece of furniture, so I've actually got 2 sets, just for those that ask how many sets it took. I will tell you how much it took at the end. Oh, already, Martin, I've managed to create a right mess.
Oh, don't
there
worry.
you go.
Don't worry,
Get
I'll
that.
tidy it all up.
Yay. Right, okay, so I'm really wanting sort of, because sometimes your furniture tells you what to do, so it looks like already that I could make 3 panels. So I'm thinking 1 panel, 1 panel, 1 panel with the colour in between it, some gold leaf, then the pattern and all the detail over the top. It's going to be a layered look. I think that is how it's all going to pan out. So I'm wondering whether a full sheet or, I don't really want to rip through this flower. I'm working on those bumps, so I think I'd rather avoid those bumps. So I think I'm maybe going to do, but it's a little bit wider than what I need. I think I'll take it from this side. So I'm going to do this because I can do these strips for up here. So that's okay. So does that make it sort of in line with here? I think it does, yeah. This one here, I think I'll do the same thing and give myself the width that I can put the strips on at the top. Boom. There we go. So I'm going to put this one here, and we'll get another one. Which one will we use for the centre? We'll use, I think, this one again. So I'll just set up with my 3 papers so that, and do not waste any of the paper. Like all of these, I'm going to be using up round the top, and I think probably it's going to be quite a lot of decoupage on this, so I'll probably be decoupaging the sides as well. So, or at least there's 2 recesses. Yeah, I'll be doing in the recesses. Right, okay. Sorry you're having to endure all this. I could have ripped it out first, but I didn't want to do that for those that hadn't seen the paper before. Right, okay. So you need your Mod Podge, you need the glue, and you need, had it a minute ago, soft cloth. These are the things you need to decoupage with Made by Marley decoupage paper. Right, let's put this one on here first. Now, I'm not worried that this draws because I can cut it, but I just want to get it on. And this is going to work out quite nice because it's just about the size. So now, I've been through this a million times, but now, oh, and also, you're probably thinking, why did she not fill those great big holes? That looks untidy. I took my handles off because I don't want to use them, and I have already, I'm digressing already. I'm going to put these handles on the piece today, and this piece here is wider than there, so when Martin drills this to screw it on, you're not going to notice that. So, and I don't think these are ever going to come off because they're lovely handles and they really go with the paper. So that's the drill with the holes, in case you think that's a bit lazy. I mean, you could go to the bother and fill them if you want, but I mean, well, who's got time for that?
It handily makes it easy to find out where to drill when
it does. I think it's probably an easier way to go. So that's what I'm all about, the ease and the fun. I'm not about the hassle and the. It doesn't mean to say my furniture isn't prepped appropriately. It just means that sometimes I think there's bigger fish to fry in life, and that is not one of them. Right? Okay, so you can see what I'm doing now. I'm making sure there's no bumps. You will get wrinkles if there is no glue. Now this will wrinkle because obviously there's bumps here, but let's just kind of position it on. I'm going to do the top drawer first, smooth from the top, work my way down. Push that in here because that's where you're more likely to get wrinkles in your drawers. Now, all the way down to the bottom. Now, as you can see, there is not right now a single wrinkle. What happens with paper is when moisture hits it, it gets wet, so it starts to wrinkle. But it's just temporary because when it dries out, it goes away. And that's the great thing about Made by Marley paper. Because it's thicker and it's more robust, it's a world of two halves with decoupage paper. I wanted to develop a decoupage paper that anybody could use. If you start with tissue paper, I think the experience is can always be very difficult, a wee bit soul destroying, and a little bit like, oh. So tissue paper's thin and it's harder to work with. My paper is easier to work with, but there's more of a blend in transitions. So you have to weigh up where you sit and how you use your paper. But for me, I think a successful application and feeling good about the process is better, and we can work on the transitions than starting out with decoupage paper, wrinkles, tissue paper, breakages, rips, all of that nonsense. It's just taken away from you, so you don't have to worry about it. So there's a unique selling point about Made by Marley paper. Also, you don't have to paint this furniture white underneath. So there we go. Right, so I'm going to be putting this one on here. I'm going to be putting this one on this side, kind of lining it up with that. I'm going to rip a bit off, and this one here is going to go in the middle. So I'm going to go and do that, and because you've seen me put one on, it's just going to be the same. Then we'll get up and we'll decoupage around these edges, and we'll put some paper in the sides, and then we'll get to painting. Because I'm trying to make my paper go as far as it possibly can, I'm putting the top on in pieces. You know, you want to try and make the most of what paper you have and be sort of ingenious. I mean, you can blend, you can put gold leaf, you can do lots of different things to make it. You can paint, you know, you can paint it and expand your decoupage paper out, but it's always a kind of good thing if you just kind of use what you've got instead of cutting up or ripping up another sheet. That's my sort of kind of motto on that. Maybe it's just I'm Scottish and I just don't want to rip up into another sheet. I don't know. So I put that on there like this. I'm not too worried about any of the transitions right now. Making sure that this edge has completely glued onto that edge. A little bit of a wrinkle there. Hang on. So that is the top done. It's kind of gone over at the back here. I applied this before, so I can just sand away the excess on the back, get rid of that for start off, and any other edges that are over. So we'll let that dry up the top, and I'll set up down the bottom, and we'll get to painting. Okay, so this is the general positioning of the decoupage paper. So I've got the three main here. I went and put paper on here, but maybe the panels will come straight down here. I'm not sure. I just used all the little pieces and parts for these edges. And I've already run my nail just along there for the drawers. So that's where we're at so far. Now, I want to mix a colour that is the lightest contingency of these sort of goldy sort of. So probably going to hit round about here, and we'll darken it up and lighten it up as we go, but I'm wanting to kind of start with a sort of this sort of colour. So let's just see what we can do. So I've got some Tilton, a tiny touch of Barcelona orange, a tiny touch of Hornflower, and quite a significant amount of Versailles. So let's just see what this all does. And it's not an exact science, this, so you have to kind of fiddle around with it for a minute. Now, I can already tell it's going to need a little bit more orange and a little bit more yellow. Let's see where that hits. Now, just have a wee look. Do you see what I'm doing there? I've just touched a tiny little bit of paint onto my decoupage paper, and I can see that that is pretty good for the background. Now I'm just going to take my small blending brush, and I'm going to blend between these right up and across, probably because we are going to be putting other things on top of these. So let's just start by getting this down. And basically, let's just start with this colour. Now, this isn't quite dry yet, so I'm going to get a wee bit of lift, but it'll go back down. I've said that before. It's just because I'm kind of forging on. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to do the whole of this sort of everywhere where there's exposed wood right now. This colour, because we're going to come back. I don't mind if there's a little bit of the wood showing through in this detail either, so I'm not going to be too, I'm not going to be too bothered about things like that, because I think that would look quite good at the end. But you understand what the concept is here. The first thing I'm going to do is kind of eradicate the brown, but I'll leave some of the brown as well. I mean, I'm contradicting myself. I know what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say you can leave some of the brown if you want. Right, okay, I've cleared that up, I think. You might want to get rid of it all. But with blending, the first thing you have to really do is you have to start somewhere, and you have to start with a colour. It maybe isn't the colour, but it's a colour. And I think what that does is it suddenly starts to kind of make sense a little bit more. You know where you're going once you've got your sort of base colour down. And I'm not mixing up a whole load of paint, because I shouldn't need a whole load of paint, because we're going to be coming back over the top of this again with all our other colours. So it's just a kind of starter for 10, I'm going to leave some of that wood in there. But that's all I'm going to do. I'm just going to fill in all of the gaps now with this colour, and then we'll come back and we'll do more. I'll be doing obviously up here as well, around the moulds. Not quite sure what colour the moulds are going to be yet, so I'm just going to kind of leave them be at the moment. But I do want to get in with the paint, but I'm also leaving some of the wood exposed. Sometimes I find it hard to explain what's going on in my mind. Maybe you don't want to be in there for the day. Right, okay, so you understand the concept. I'll get on and I'll do the piece. Okay, so I've got an acrylic paint fan brush here. Yeah, I know what it is. I've got a little one as well. But I wanted one that was kind of a bit wrecked, if you know what I mean. Now, I'm going to be doing the reds and the burgundies around so I'm working on these 3 drawers, and this is the frame, and I've already started to do a bit of blending in here. So what am I doing? I've got like a few different colours. I've got a sort of beigey browny gold. You have to kind of offload this. And first of all, I'm just putting some toning with this beigey browny gold. And that is the official term for that one, I think. Just here and there, just putting some of this in with my fan brush. And then I'm dipping it in the brown, but just the kind of edges of the fan brush, offloading it and doing some more like kind of brown. And this is just a matter of like all blending. It's going to take a little bit of time to get round it all to where you think you've managed to kind of get it, that it looks all in one. I think by leaving some of the parts of the furniture brown underneath, that was a kind of bonus. I'm going to start going into my reds in a minute. So let's just kind of work a little bit more on here. Some yellows. I'm trying to emulate this sort of crosshatch kind of distress. I'm going to be putting some gold leaf, I think, down here, so we can bring this up, make it a little bit browner here. And you're just moving back and forward until you get, I think it's a little bit too rich with the yellow there. But if you do something like that, you can always come along and put some of the yellow in the paper like that. And then that way you've kind of got that covered. Coming along here like this. And doing the up and downy sort of cross-hatchy strokes, going back over with the sort of lighter. And this just is the time that it takes to blend things out. It just does. I mean, you can notice already that the transitions have disappeared. The paint is thick enough around the edges, and we also have lots of different tones and colours that is just camouflaging that part there. Now, what we do with the edges? The edges, I have burgundy, and I have here red. So let's just put a little bit over here on my palette. I don't want to start really doing the edges right now, but it's just so that we can move forward on the filming. Oh, that's quite stiff to squeeze, Mary. Right, okay. So I've just got a sort of fluffy brush for this part here. It's not a blend, it's a kind of meld. So let's just kind of do a sort of darker around here first and then dip into the red and just, but I still want to kind of keep some of the cream underneath. I don't want to go too mad with it. So let's just kind of, this is just kind of like, I think actually, to be honest with you, that brush isn't suitable. Let's try this one instead. Yeah, that's better. You can see what I'm doing. I'm just kind of like, it's kind of hard to explain, but it's just to kind of give it a sort of frame, a border. I always think things look kind of nicer and a wee bit more grounded if you've got sort of the darker edges. That's just my opinion. I mean, you don't have to. You could go around it with a sort of green if you wanted, just touching up into there. And you can see already it's starting to take shape. It kind of is starting already very quickly. And that's the thing about decoupage paper. I'm dipping in the brown now. I'm going to put some brown up in here. Decoupage paper can make things quite quick. I mean, because you're covering quite large surface area quite fast. Down here, I'm just going to touch along there with the feet. There's a little bit of the red pattern. So you can see already with this part here, and there's got a wee bit of lift there again because it's wet, but you can see with this part here done and the red outline, suddenly it's starting all to pull together. So I'm going to go and I'm going to mix, I'm going to do my blending with my fan brush in between here, do the red from here and the feet from here, and the sides. What I did with the sides was I just decoupaged in the squares. So pretty much we'll just move from the corners of the decoupage out, but I'll get to that when it's time. The top here, I'm just going to pretty much continue my red frame up and around the edges, and I'm still leaving the moulds just now because I'm still not quite sure what's going to happen. And then when we come back, once I've done some more of this, we'll work out probably what I'm going to be doing here, which is a bit of a mystery at this point in time. I really wish it hadn't had so much of this detail because it would have been nice just to carry the paper up. Now I could spray the paper and manage to get it in there, but I think maybe it'll break it up as well because once we've done all this, there's actually going to be a stencil going over the top of this too. So we're kind of like working our way through it. It's just stages and building up the layers. So I'll maybe just avoid this and do as much as I can. I'll do this side so that I can show you what I'm doing on the other side. But this is it. It's just blending. I'm just showing you what I'm doing on the side. So far I've been starting to put the sort of crosshatch brown and cream in it. But on this part here, it says paper, I piece two pieces together. So we're just going to go along and we're going to do something that kind of gets rid of those, gets rid of the paper joints. So we'll do it with brown first. And then maybe we'll touch with some of this burgundy around here. Maybe some here as well. And that just kind of makes it look more like it's one. Now, okay, so because I've got the browns on and I've put the brown around the edges, I'm going to go in with the burgundy and just kind of start mixing those up. What kind of patch here, because as I said, there's going to be some stencil work. So I want to kind of keep it that you know, that there are parts that the stencil is going to go across the design at the front. But on here, I'll probably want it kind of down here, but I'll start up on this sort of gap. So basically what I'm kind of doing is I'm just bringing in the red, but I'm kind of predominantly using more burgundy than red. I'm kind of going over with the red just to kind of highlight over that. And some patches are a little bit redder than others, but mostly, you can see here, mostly it's the burgundy. And I'm kind of taking it into that brown. Whether you want to bring it up in around these edges, that's kind of, you know, it's entirely up to you, really. You're just kind of going around it all. I need a bit more brown here. And I'm just almost dry brushing down here. I don't want to lose the cream detailing that, you know, we put on underneath. And maybe kind of A bit more sort of brown around this edge. Blend that out. But you can see it takes a little bit of time. Once it's kind of drier as well, you can come back in with your fan brush and you can do some detail over it. And you can also use your palette knife to kind of put some cream over it and around the edges and give it a little bit of texture. You're just going to work away until you get something that you really like. And pretty much that's what I've done on the other side. The other side is finished now. So I'm going to leave that just now, and I'm just going to go back onto the front to show you what I'm doing there. So the front, this has all been done here. Up the top has been done, this side has been done, and I'm starting to do around these edges. But I said I'd come back for this sort of kind of panel here. So I think with this panel here, I'm just going to try and keep some of the cream and put some of the brown in it and just kind of mix between my colours again and just kind of do that sort of cross hatch. I like this here, so I want to kind of do a bit more like that. And it's just this again, it's just going to take some time. I'm not 100% sure whether I maybe want to put some patches of red. Let's kind of just see whether maybe some slight patches of red might work. Yeah, what do you think about that, Martin?
I think it does.
You think it does? Okay, right. So, and this is the bright red now, so kind of maybe intermittent. Do you like that word, Martin? Something along here. It's just to keep it in, keep in. I'm not cleaning my fan brush in between this either. I'm just kind of, I think maybe this patch here, maybe a little bit browner. I'm just kind of working across it just to get something that works with the underneath. So that's kind of how this part here is going to work for me. I think maybe I could do with maybe a little bit of
the magic of paint.
Just a little bit. I know you can do anything with paint. So, and I mean, this is reasonably quick. This has all happened in a matter of a few hours. I mean, it's, sometimes it takes me days to get bits of furniture done. But as I said, decoupage it's fast in the way that, if you apply it, then you're not having to go around it all with paint. So you're working on all your transitions. And once you've got your transitions down, now it's still
straight from an inspiration point of view as well. I always think, because of the colours and the patterns that are in the paper, that gives you a good starting point for what you're then going to do with the paint.
It does, and you could do. I'm not just saying this because it's ours, but with our decoupage paper, to be honest with you, it's limitless. If you learn to blend your transitions, because with a kind of certain amount of certainty. I mean, this is not wrinkled. I do not have any wrinkles on my decoupage paper. It goes on nicely. So really, your element, your part that you have to get down is to make sure that you don't. I'm just stroking it there so you can see. You just have to make sure that you kind of get your sort of blending your transitions right, and you do that with paint. And you do that with texture, and you do that with pattern and colour, and you just have fun. Because, to be honest with you, this has been a really enjoyable process for me so far. I quite like it when you can just kind of fiddle around with things and just kind of like play around with the paint. I think there's nothing nicer than it's quite relaxing. So I'm happy with this. I'm going to leave these parts of the brown in here like that. What are we doing with these moulds? I really don't know at this point. I'm thinking I might paint them in the dark burgundy, and when I do some of the gold, I'm thinking I'll put these in gold at the end. But there's something that's saying do them dark green. Burgundy. I'm going to do them burgundy. This shade here.
Gold, dark green.
I'm going to do them I'm going to do them burgundy, and then I can do them gold, Martin.
Oh, okay.
I need a shade underneath it, first. I think that I'm going to do them burgundy just now. If I don't like them, and I think I could do the dark green, but the stencil's going to have a lot of dark green on it. So, don't don't want to be spoiler alert in it and saying, you know, how it's all going to work. Right, okay, happy days. That is this, looking good. I'm going to do up and amongst these moulds here, paint these moulds in burgundy, finish off that side, and we'll come back because then hopefully I'm going to leave it a wee while and let it get dried up, and then we will embark on putting some gold on it before we go and do some stencil work. Okay, so this is what I've done with the mould. I've painted it burgundy, and now what I'm doing, and I might go over this in gold, but at the moment I'm going over it in just the Versailles, which is the cream colour, and I'm just using the same fan brush, and I'm just, you know, I'm just dry brushing it. And I've done the moulds at the top in the same way, and I've painted all around there. I have also done both sides now, so we are moving on apace. So I'm just going to call it good now. At this point in time, if you want to put a little bit of just the red, just a tiny little bit of red, you can just kind of like get the end of your paintbrush and just kind of like it's a little bit of distress. I've done that on these other ones, just a little bit. It's nothing major, and it's just a little bit of red round it like that. And I've done the same on this front part here. Next, there's some highlights. I've just got the same brush, and you can just kind of start anything that you think you want to kind of highlight. You know, like I always like to kind of like darken and highlight edges and corners. We have to sand these when we open up the furniture, but things like that. So I've done all of that and kind of made myself quite happy with that. So I think maybe I could do with some, like this is kind of coming down here. A wee bit of that there and a bit over there. Right, okay. So this part now is complete. We've done our layers. Now I'm going to put a stencil over the top of this. So I'm going to be using this stencil, which is Annie Sloan's Chinoiserie. And I want to kind of have it running down here, and a bit running up here. So I want to start with my bird. I'm just going to put some tacky spray on it. It's not something I would normally do, but just to kind of save me having to always kind of hold on to it so severely. Thinking that's pretty good for positioning. With the tacky spray on it, you don't have to be so on it. Let's just talk about colours. Ignore the red, I just used the red a minute ago. This is a Buisson Blue, which is this sort of petrol-y dark blue with some Amsterdam green in it, which is the dark green. There's Amsterdam green over here with furrel, which is the lime green. The lime green, the furrel on its own. This here is furrel and a little bit of Provence. This is Provence by itself, and this is just Amsterdam green by itself. These are the greens. Ignore the red. We don't need that right now. So we've got our positioning. Let's work on the basis that, this is Cornflower, which is brown with a little bit of Athenian black, obviously black, to make the dark for the branches. So offload, you don't need too much in your brush. So let's just do our branch first. So I'm not using a stencil brush, I'm just using an ordinary paintbrush for this part. I don't want this to go any further than that. So this is our brush. I think we'll do the bird's legs in this as well. Like that. Then leaves. So you can alternate. I'm going to be doing some green, this shady green, and dipping in the furrel, which is the limier, but I'm not cleaning my brush in between. So we're getting a sort of a little bit of everything here. Some Amsterdam green with some furl, and maybe this here, but we can add some furl over the top of it, and that gives us a little bit of something different, a little bit of this. So what I'm doing here is I'm just alternating over the furniture with the sort of greens. Oh, I've missed a bit of branch there. Some of this. I don't want to particularly do the flowers. I think I might do those in a different colour. I'm just trying to ascertain what's what here. And run a bit of different colour through that. What have we got up here? I'm wondering, I don't want to go up onto where the furniture is lumpy. I'm not having any lumpy parts. Now I want to do my bird in the mix of a Busan blue, and so that's this sort of this colour. Now I'm going to come back and do something with the bird, but we need to do all this part first. And I'm thinking, apart from these little, I'm wondering whether I could just use the red. This was the red brush with the browny black colour, like that. And I'm just going to dip that into the dark colour here and finish off this branch. Now, let's see what this looks like. I think I've got everywhere. Let's have a wee look. Now we're going to come back and we're going to highlight our bird, but we need this to sort of continue down. So I'll probably use this branch here as the sort of one that will continue, and then we'll run this branch from this branch here. But I'm going to, I mean, you don't need to keep seeing this, but you get the sort of gist of what I'm doing. I'm now just stenciling down the piece of furniture so that it all kind of makes sense. That's all I'm doing. So I'm going to get on and I'm going to stencil some more, and we'll come back when I maybe go to stencil the sides and I'll start to put the detail into it. Okay? Making a stencil work for you is just a matter of using different parts and pieces to make it flow across your furniture. Sometimes you can stand back and think, right, okay, it needs a little bit, and what I've kind of stood back and went is it needs a little bit more of the brown. So I'm just going over and I'm actually making this leaf come from one of the flowers underneath, just to kind of pull it together and make it more cohesive. So can you see that leaf's coming from there? And we'll do maybe one coming from here. And all I've done with the stencil is just turn it around to find parts to put it together that's going to work across my furniture. You see how that already kind of makes that look like it's part of the design. If we do this with this leaf here as well, then we've got them coming all the way around that leaf, like that. And you can do the same, we'll just use the same leaf. You can do the same on this flower here, because there's a nice piece of real estate there that we can use. And again, I'm just brushing that in there to make that work there. And maybe one, what could we use? Looking for something a little bit thinner. This one here. Here, we could put this here. And that is all I've done. I've just used the stencil to work across my design. And I'm now just kind of looking at all the little finishy parts that kind of make it like suddenly it looks like it's one, as opposed to it looks like decoupage paper with a stencil over the top. We are going to come back and do something with the birds, but I think it needs a little bit of brown here as well. So let's just kind of add this into the mix up. I don't want to go on to that groove part, so it could look like this leaf is coming from here. And literally, you're not missing much. Oh, I've overloaded that. I'm thinking, just be careful that you don't you offload, it's really important that you do that. And maybe one sort of last effort on the brown here, just coming from underneath this bird so that it looks like it kind of joins up to there. Yeah, actually I quite like that, and I think maybe that's working. So I'm going to do this here as well. Stenciling is all about having the confidence, the method, and how to put it together, and you can make really amazing looks. So I think I'm gonna pretty much at this stage call it quits on the front. I'm gonna come back and do some detail on the birds. I have done the stencil in some pieces and parts at the top, but I've yet to put my sort of brown leaves to kind of, you know, finish it off up here to give it that it just needs that little bit of dark shading on it. And I think these little leaves here are the sort of kind of perfect way to do it, just by using my brown. And I'm just twirling my brush round and round in my stencil, and I'm not overloading it. And you get a good way of doing it. One leaf maybe there. So I'm just kind of working it all out now, just doing all the little finey touches on the front, and then we'll get on to the sides. And I'll show you one side, I'll show you this sort of movement on one side, I'll do the other side, and then we'll get on to the next stage of the layers. So I've got the stencil on, and I'm just going to work on this area here so you can see what I'm doing. So in the brown colour, I'm just going round with a script brush all of my leaves like this and joining everything up. This part just takes a little bit of time, and you just need to, because then it makes it look less like a stencil if you do this. And so I'm kind of darkening things up. That's actually in the decoupage paper, so we'll just bring that leaf in. That one's in the decoupage paper as well, so we'll bring that one down. So under there, and that's all I'm doing. I'm just kind of doing that with the light now. Then I'm changing my brush colour, and I'm going in with the cream colour, which is just the Versailles by itself. Just get a bit more on my brush, and I'm kind of highlighting. I'm putting a bit of a highlight on the branches, like this. Maybe a bit on the leaf, something like that. And then you can, once I've done that, I was kind of getting the brown again. And these flowers, I was just kind of doing a little bit of detail on them. If there was berries, I was just going round them with the dark, like that. There's some berries here, just to give everything a little bit of shape and make it stand out a little bit more. If you get any bits that are untidy, just kind of like tidy them up as you go. Just a little bit of highlight there, highlight on the legs, under the branches. I haven't done up there yet, but we'll get to there. So then it kind of looks like this. Then what I was doing with the bird was, I've got some gold paint here. Oh, I can see some berries there that I haven't highlighted. So I'm just kind of going around. If it's sticking out in the middle of nowhere, you know, any of the parts of stencils that you think that's just out in the middle of nowhere and it's not doing anything, just get your brown paint and just bring it all back in. Right, so cleaning my brush, dipping into my gold paint, using my lid as to offload to make sure I've not got too much gold paint. Oh, I realise I haven't done a part. Hang on, I just find another brush. With the same colour as the birds, I'm doing them a little bit of a kind of like flourish on top of their heads. So something like this. Already done this one, but yeah. So then I was taking the gold and literally I'm just doing something like, I'm just kind of bringing out some of the detail just so they're not so flat looking and they look less like a sort of stencil. I'm not taking a lot of time over it. It's just kind of rough that I'm doing it. It's just to kind of give it a little bit of zhuzh. Do you see what I mean there, Martin?
I do.
I'm just going to extend the beak and make it gold, and I'm going to go back around that. Now at the end, I have been putting the eye in with gold, but I'm going to come back with a black and go over the top of that. So just something like that to kind of give the bird a little bit of shape. There's another one here, so let's just do that. And round we go. Just because my gold's water-based, I can just make it move pretty well over the top of the chalk paint. Just a little beak. Just something like that. Just to give it a little bit more punch. Right, okay, so I need to come back and do the eyes on them all because the eyes are kind of lost. Now, when I step back from this piece, it is too busy. Too busy in the way that it's nice to have this design, but I need to get some areas of less, if you know what I mean. So how am I going to do that? I am going to do that with gold leaf when I find my pot. So I'm using the gold leaf gilding size, and what kind of brush would I think this might work with? I'm going to use this nasty looking fan brush because I don't want it heavy. I think probably the best way to do this is put my fan brush in, pull my fan brush out, and just use a little bit of my palette, I think, to do this. Sorry. Right, where am I going with this? I don't want to eradicate all the lovely decoupage paper underneath, but I just need to kind of give this a little bit of clarity. By putting it on like this, it means that it's not going to obviously stick in, it's not going to stick to the paper too heavy. You know, it's going to be more, instead of painting it on where it'll come on as quite, you know, looking quite heavy. I mean, you can, on some of the blank areas, you can have quite a lot of gold, put a wee bit in there. Now the trick is with this is it's always a little bit awkward to see where you've been before, but you just kind of don't do too many areas at once. So I'm kind of working on this area here, to about here. So let's just kind of, I mean, it's pretty much kind of already sort of drying. Let's have a wee look and see how this is going to go on. I think for this, you're probably better holding on to the sheets. And then getting rid of your excess and just see if you can find any other sticky bits. I think that's the technical way. It's just because when I step back, it is a little bit too busy around the plants, around the vines, and I want it to look a little bit less busy, if you know what I mean. And the gold will sort of block out some of the areas and make it less so, hopefully. Now, kind of see if we've got any. You're just kind of having to go around it all now and make sure that you've got all the little bits that you stuck it onto. But I'm not going to labour on this too long because I think you know what I'm doing here. I'm just going to see if I can gather a little bit more of this before I brush it off. So on there. Get another sheet. But I think this will give it a little bit more, hopefully not as kind of busy round about it. Do you understand what I'm saying, Martin? Am I not making sense today?
I'm sure it would all become clear.
Well, it might not. Right. I'm not going to do too
So I'm probably with them. When you said split again, so do you understand what I mean? I was like, no.
It's just that it's too busy round about the flowers is what I'm trying to say, and I want a little bit of something
To distract you from that.
We'll break it up a little bit and kind of blot out some of the areas without getting rid of so many areas, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
Right. That's the kind of thought process. So let's just have a wee look at this and see what happens. I wouldn't normally be rubbing it as hard, but I don't want it too heavy. I just want little parts. See, can you see what that's doing, Martin? It's making more clarity. Or maybe you can't see that, but I think it is. So if you can see round here, I think that makes it look less. Yeah, this is going to work out just fine. So I'm going to get on and I am going to apply my gold leaf under my branches and across my branches just to kind of give it a little bit less busyness around it. Run it across my piece like that. I tried some of my gold, just my paint gold on here a minute ago, and I just rubbed it across there, and just to show you what that looks like in context, I'm just applying it with my finger. And why am I using the paint on these molds instead of gold leaf? Just because this is an easier process. You'd have to kind of go right across the tops if you wanted to use gold leaf, whereas it's kind of easier. And this gold is such a nice gold that it works out just as nice. So I'm going to put the gold on there. I think I've already kind of decided that, but that's what I'm going to do with the. I've got to finish up the top by highlighting and underlining my leaves. I've pretty much done what I've just shown you on this side, so I'm kind of done there. I haven't done the other side, and once we've done all of this, I've cut some of the butterflies off out of, because we saved that sheet at the beginning, and I'm going to apply some of these here, just here and there on the furniture. I think on some of these sort of gap here areas up here that I didn't have anything to put in, so something like that. But yeah, that's where we're going. Yeah, that's where we're going. Okay, so I'll get on and do my gold, and I'll finish up the top, put the gold on there. We still have the inside to do. I think the inside I'm going to be doing green. I think inside I'm going to do green. It still has to be done, but I'll kind of show you that, and then I'll get to work on that. But that's where we're at the moment. Okay. So with the sheets with the butterflies, I cut them out. With the spare stuff that was left over, I have decoupaged the parts into the drawer. It's got to dry, and I need to sand this, and I've done the front of the little drawer for the front. So we can set those aside knowing that I've used more paper doing that. Now, situation, where am I going to put these? Let's just have a wee look. I think maybe I want one here. So, oh, that's going to be right over the handle. That's not going to work. The handle's there. Gonna have to, no, abort. We're not having that there. It's just I remembered that's where the handle is going to be. So, do I want one here maybe?
Yes.
Oh, okay, Martin.
Yes, that's a good position.
That's a good position. Just don't want it over the handle. I don't want. Now, if you think that you've got a whole load of detail to go in, you can wet your paper. But I think because it's so small and I'm using enough Mod Podge, we should be able to manipulate it into this shape here. Bring it up into here and into there. And making sure that you've put enough glue around all your fussy cut edges. That is quite important. I haven't got enough up in here. Right, okay. So that's one on. I don't want too many on it, but I'm thinking maybe here or here. here, I think I'll just make it go across the drawers because, you know, I like a challenge.
Yeah, why not
Why
make
not?
it difficult for yourself?
Of course, Martin. It's just how I roll. Fold it a little bit into there. And obviously I'm going to have to cut that because it's on the drawer, but it'll look quite good. Make sure it's all stuck down and let that completely dry before you cut it. And maybe one more. And I'm thinking, yeah, don't want to cover up that flower, so I'm thinking there. So you get the point now. I'm just obviously I'm sticking on my butterflies, and I'm going to do that on up the top, on the top, on, and I've already done a couple on the side, on that side, Martin. If you can show them there, I've done a couple. So
yeah, there's one there.
I just think we've got these sheets, and I wanted them to play quite a pivotal part at the end. That's why I kept them. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Something makes me think, but I'm not sure whether it'll throw it off, whether I should have
That handle there as well.
up there, yeah. Okay, maybe not, but I will put one here. It's going to go over the mould, so I'll only do so much of it, and then I'll go away off camera because I'll need to go and get my water spray to make sure I can push. Oh, maybe not. No, it's not going to go over the mould at all. Right, so you know what I'm doing now? I'm doing this. Next thing we are going to get on to is getting the inside ship shape, and it is in a bit of a mess, so I'll need to kind of think about what I can do about that to make that look good. But yeah, so I'm just kind of, when it's fussy cut, I think massaging the glue into it really helps it stick down. It also puts a layer between your edges and everything. You're pushing the glue around your edges so it just doesn't come back off. So one there, and maybe I'll do one up the top somewhere. Okay? I'm just putting some up the top, and Martin said, would you like me to film this part too? And I went, well, yes.
She said, you don't have to.
I said, you don't have to if you don't want to, but he seemed like he wanted to, so I thought, okay. Like, my videos aren't long enough. I mean, you've got the drill the first time round, but okay. So you can see where I'm putting them. I think I could do with one maybe here. It's kind of going over the top of that leaf, but that's okay. Yeah. Right, I'm not going to leave it anymore on this. You get the drill. And tomorrow, when this is all dry, we'll get on to the inside. Okay. Okay, so to paint inside the backs, I'll just show you what brushes I used. I used a blending brush, I used a pan brush, and I used one of these, which is a decorator brush, to do around the edges so that I could get right up in the back. But if you don't have any of them, just get a paintbrush and masking tape it onto a paint stirring stick, and you'll be able to get up in and around it. Sorry about that. So
we're still not quite over this, are we?
So that's the brushes that I used. What did I do? Right, I just need to talk about costings, because I had done the whole piece with one sheet left, which I was going to put here, and that would have been 2 sets, and 2 sets is acceptable for this size of furniture, and I know that'll make my money back. However, I decided that I thought I'll just cut up my last sheet and I'll put it in the back. I would have had a lot more paper if I hadn't cut out the butterflies, but I used the spare for the inside of that drawer. So I have been really frugal. So if I don't think, you know, I don't think I could have worked out a different way if I hadn't cut out the butterflies. Maybe, I don't know. But this is me at my 3 sheets. I've got Martin to print me a sheet for here. I'm cheating, kind of. But there would have been different ways you could have done it so that you weren't breaking into a third pack. But I've covered just about every surface of this furniture, and generally I don't do that. Generally I try to do pieces of furniture with just one, so that it's affordable to everybody. But it depends on how much or how little you do. And if you have got a piece of furniture, the chances are it's not a bureau and you have to do inside as well. So I think it would probably eke out okay. I did most of the front with just one set. It was just when I got to the sides and the top that it became a little bit, so maybe you don't do the top on it, but that's just
Maybe
a little
they
bit.
cut out butterflies.
Or maybe you don't count butterflies. Maybe. You live and you learn. Anyway, what have I done? I've cut out decoupage paper. I haven't cut it right to the back. I mean, that's a waste of paper, and I only had my one sheet left. So, but you can't tell. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just Mod Podge. I'll just show you. I'm going to Mod Podge these in these little apertures so that make sure you get your glue far enough back if you're just kind of a bit neat on paper.
Tricksome, isn't it?
It can be tricksome, and that's why I'm saying sometimes maybe a brush on a stirry stick might enable you to get in better. Now with this, you just have to kind of make sure that you've got it all smoothed out and everywhere has glue like that. And what side I think will be prettier? I think this side. Pop it in, line it up with the edge, and then smooth it out. Now I'm going to do this. That's just glue in there. I'm just going to do this with all of these parts. I'll put my little drawer in. I don't know why I put my little drawer in because I need to put my handle on it, but I'm going to gold leaf a little pull that goes on that. So I'm going to do that, and with my sheet that I did get Martin to print out, I am going to put this here. Probably I'm going to cut it and put it here, and then I think we're going to be doing some gold leaf around these edges here, gold leaf around here, and then I'm pretty much going to leave it alone because you can do too much. But I just think that looks more complete and more finished. You could do the same look with paint, or you could stencil in there, but I think that would be slightly tricky. But you could do it, and then you wouldn't have to cut another sheet. But just things to consider when you're doing furniture. Anyway, I'll glue all this in, and I'll glue this down. So when you come back, everything will be glued and dried, ready for the next stage. So I applied my square of decoupage. I didn't have to cut it apart from where this lock is here. I cut it around the lock. And what I've done is I just used the masking tape's width to make a frame round it, and I'm just gold leafing it. And I think probably the best way to do this is just to, well, not do what I just did there, but
cut it into strips.
Cut it into strips.
And gently lay them so they're perfect.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Matt. That's what I'm trying to do. It's just there's a little bit of adhesive now on my fingers. Once you get the adhesive on your fingers,
game over.
Yeah. So I'm doing this round here. And now I'm going to have to be especially careful when I pull this masking tape off this decoupage paper, because even though it's for delicate surfaces, it sometimes can take it, which is a really good look, but it's not the look I'm going for today. And we might do that another day, how to distress my decoupage paper using sandpaper and tape and things. That's a good video. Right, okay, so I've got that round here. I'm just going to pat it down with this brush a minute, and I'm going to let that settle while I just show you what I'm doing on the back. Sorry, Martin, you started over there and thought it was a really good position, but I want to show in here.
I can move.
Oh, can you? Okay.
Yeah.
Right, so I'm just getting these little strips, and what I'm doing is I'm applying them down the fronts of here. Now, when I get to the bottom, I kind of did it a little bit slightly over so that there was a little bit inside as well, inside the door and on the external edge. So when I brush it all off, it's going to look pretty cute, I think. So I'm gonna go away and put all this on, and then we'll come back with me brushing it off, because once you've seen gold leaf applied, you've seen gold leaf applied. I mean, it's nothing. You're not getting anything different.
Yeah. Come back for the money shots.
Okay, we'll come back for the money shots. As Matt says, want money? Okay, right. I'll get on and do this. Okay, I'm just getting rid of the excess first, really, is what I'm doing.
Making a mess, that's what you're doing.
I'm making a mess. Yeah, but
That I'll have to clear up.
yeah, but you love to clean it up. So I've kind of started on this side here. You can see this side is starting to come together. I put the drawer back in because I did the little pull on it, so I needed to do that as well. And you can see that I've kind of, if I sweep it this way, you can see that it is starting to kind of take shape. It just takes a bit of time with gold leaf. And if you putting gold leaf and you're using like a stencil or a stamp, a kind of more sort of kind of one that you can scrape in. But if you're just doing gold leaf on furniture, a nice soft one that's kind of going to get into everything and just brushes off all the excesses the way it goes. This takes a little bit of time, but you can get the gist. I'm not going to spend too long on this back part because you know what I'm doing. I'm just tidying it all up and getting rid of all this excess stuff, which I'm going to try and get Martin to clean up. Well, I'm not going to try. I'm going to ask Martin if he'll clean it up. And so if I put it over here, he can tackle that. Keep all of this, put it in a container because you don't know when you're going to need it for other things. And it's good to have all these little parts. Right, how to tackle this part down here. Let's just get the excess off it first. Now, as I said, I want to work incredibly slowly on this because I don't mind a distress look on the decoupage paper if that's what I'm going for, but that is not what I'm currently going to. Did you see me shake that on the ground there, Matt?
I did. I saw that. Yeah.
I thought, wow.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I have a Hoover.
Right, so I'm going to take the external edge off first. Can we just see, even with this paint, it's taking it off, but don't worry, I'll come back up and I'll touch that up. I had a little bit of a oh, look at that, that's not good. But let's get this edge off. This edge should, when you're going a different way on the grain, should be fine. It's just when you're taking it off. I'm more concerned, I can touch up the paint, I just can't fix the decoupage paper too much. So I just wanted to kind of bridge the gap between the decoupage paper and the furniture. And so I thought this was quite a good way of doing it. Right, okay, gently does it here. Let me just get an edge. And I just want it very, very slowly. I mean, it is taking a little bit away. Can you see that? Oh, I'm not going to worry about it, I don't think. It's not the end of the world. I'm going really, really slowly. Really, 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 really slowly. Just easing it off because I don't want... I mean, there's only that little bit there and I don't think it's hugely noticeable, but slowly removing the decoupage paper. Now, what I'm going to have to do on off camera now is I'm going to have to go and redo this green round the edge. I was planning, I put this stencil here and I was going to be putting this last part, this part here around the edge and maybe just leave that as that. I don't know, I'll have to have a good look at it and see what I think.
Gold.
Yeah, I was going to do it in gold,
Yeah.
Matty, but I just think if I mess around with this colour, I might not be able to get it. I'm annoyed. This tape really shouldn't do it. It doesn't usually, but
You're vexed.
I'm vexed. Martin uses the word vexed all the time. Yes, I'm vexed, Martin. I'm vexed. Martin's happy today because we're going to a party next weekend and we went shopping yesterday for him. I really had the debate with him before we left. I said, now, can you pick yourself something nice? Because Martin only has two speeds. One is his daily grey hoodie, which he wears all of the time, and he's got many of them. And the next thing is when he's dressy, he's got his black jumpers, and he has many of those.
So I do have a few of those photos.
It's like a uniform. So I said to him, "Are you going to?"
I like them.
I know you do, but I said, "Are you going to get something, a little bit different for this party?" And he said, "Yes." So we got to the shops yesterday, and I said, "Go and have a look in there." And he would, seconds, I'm not even talking seconds, he wasn't even in there seconds. I think he took one look and came back out and said, "No, there's nothing for me there." So I sent him back in because I was at the other side, I was the girls' side of the shop. And I went, "No, on you go and have a good look and don't come back and say you haven't found anything." Wow, just 5 minutes passed by and he came back and he said, I found something, but it's not my size. And I don't believe him. So we were supposed to be going.
What I did was I just went to hid around the corner.
I think you did. I think you did just hide around the corner. See you hiding outside at one point on your phone, and I thought, what is he doing out there?
I know what I like.
I know you do. So anyway, he's been online today and he's found himself a retro.
What have I found? I tell you,
it's
awesome.
A retro American football
It's
top.
an 80s Raiders V-neck T-shirt. It's awesome.
So he's going to be wearing that.
Proper vintage from the 80s.
It's just like you, man, proper vintage. Yeah. So I'm really, really pleased with this. I'm just going to have to touch this little bit up here where they've got the paper lift with a little bit of brown, which we can do here and here. And
vintage.
it is like you in your vintage T-shirt and you yourself being vintage. Yep. It's a whole vibe, as the kids would say. Anyway,
I'm going to look cool.
Oh, you are going to look amazing. Yeah. Yes, and everybody's going to say, "Gosh, look at Martin, isn't he so retro?"
Somebody say, "Gosh, look at Martin." Doesn't he say retro cool? They might go,
what is he wearing?
What's he wearing? Who does he think he is?
I enjoy that, Martin. Martin's always a hit with my older, like my relatives, especially all my women, all my aunts, uncles, any women. Martin's always a hit. He's always a hit with the ladies. So I don't know. I might have to share him. Right. Okay, Amo. That's us. We've done this. I think I don't know. I don't like this part here, so I'm gonna have to fix this here. I don't know. I must have touched it with the gold leaf. But apart from this, I am really enjoying this. I think it looks really nice.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure because, well, I don't know. I'll see what my next plan is when I come back. But I mean, literally, I want to fix this. I'm still unclear whether I want to put a stencil around this edge. I think that might either make it too much or can you have too much? Just on these two sides. I can know, and I'll do it in gold. Right, okay, well, I might come back and I've done that, and I might come back and I won't have, but the next thing that's going to happen is I'm going to be cleaning it all out. Martin's going to be hoovering and tidying up the floor, and then while Marty's doing that, I will get to sealing it. I'm going to be sealing it with French Chic Top Coat Sealer. And once I've sealed it, I'm going to get Martin to put my handles on, which I showed you right at the beginning. The whole thing is going to need a really good dusting off, because that's the thing about gold leaf. You can go over it and over it and over it and over it and still go over it, and you still find parts, and you don't want that sloshing around when you go to seal it. So
it's really nice, darling.
It's going to need a whole load of something.
This piece is really nice.
It's nice, isn't it? It looks like it's had time spent on it, and then actually, to be honest with you,
it has.
Well, it hadn't up until in here, and then it had, but the main look came together really quite quickly. Yeah, it did. So I'll get on and I'll get my insides finished. So can you remember how this looked in the beginning? It had loads of dings, scuffs, all sorts of things around the edges. The inside was the top was covered in cut marks, it had bashes and dings in it just about everywhere. So the way to start with something like that is, because it was missing parts of the molds, I just put molds on top of it, part of the detail, and so now it looks like it's part of the piece. By doing things like this, moves the eye to a different part of the furniture. By adding Made by Marley decoupage paper, then you are, the ideas are limitless of what you can do with it. And I just kind of blended in between it all, and then I layered up with some stencils, and I came back in with the butterflies. And obviously I didn't show you this, but I finished the inside, and I decided to go with the same stencil that I used externally. So I used the birds, and I just ran it right across it. I did go back in and paint it green underneath, but because I'd been blending my colours, it was kind of more tricky to do, and so I thought I'm going to need something with a little bit more va-va-voom to do it. So I thought, oh, that would be perfect. So that gives it a whole new lease of life, something really different to look at. And when you look at it sideways on as well, you can see all the different sort of colours of the green and stuff. So that's how to do it. So just fix my tassel there. So if you've enjoyed this video today, give us a like, give us a share, give us a thumbs up. Please don't forget to subscribe. And the lovely Martin, have you anything to add?
I personally, I think this is one of the best pieces you've ever done. I think it's gorgeous. You'll see in a minute when I do the close-ups. It's just sumptuous. It's gorgeous.
He says it's sumptuous.
Sumptuous.
He says the same thing every week. Yeah, okay, but that so Martin and I will see you again next week, and for another next week I'm going to be doing a smaller piece. I'm going to be doing a lampshade, a standard lamp, the base and the shade, only because a couple of people have said I quite like it when you do smaller items because I don't have a lot of room. So I thought I'll alternate it every so often, put a smaller piece in. So that's what we're doing next week.